Respected community members, welcome to AMAFHH Federation Virtual Studio. I'm David Webb and I'm joined by AMAFHH Federation founder and chairperson Batul Gulani. Together we're going to present the end of year highlights for the year 2021.
Hi, my name is Batul Gulani and we are going to talk today with David about the 2021 highlights, challenges we went through and the support we received from different organizations, and especially I'd like to thanks to Department of Premier Cabinet, Department of Family Fairness and Housing, with the support of Victorian Multicultural Commission. There are lots of departments who supported us and provide us information which we have very easily forward to our community members. So without their help, we are unable to forward these all informations and concern which we receive from the community to our general public.
Continuing the development of our AMAFHH Federation Virtual Studio, some delays to that occurred in 2020 as a result of the pandemic and the various lockdowns we experienced. So as of January 21, that was still very much a work in progress, and we've continued to develop the studio infrastructure, which we're now using to do this broadcast. As well as developing the infrastructure for the studio, it's been necessary to provide quite a lot of training to the children and young people in our community. This is part of ensuring that they have ways to communicate with a broader audience in order to engage with the community. And the training has included not just the technical skills for doing that, but also communication skills such as public speaking, hosting, etc. And also, very importantly, skills such as personal hygiene, social distancing, and disinfecting surfaces. All of these things are part of the training that's been provided to the children and young people in our community. Another part of what we've been doing for 2021 is continuing and building upon our capacity in terms of supporting the mental health and well-being of our community. There have been many challenges as a result of the pandemic, as a result of people experiencing heightened degrees of anxiety and social isolation due to the lockdowns, due to the restrictions, and due to being in an altogether unfamiliar situation where change is occurring very frequently.
Even this year, we provide informations getting from the government departments and other stakeholders in different languages. David, would you like to explain them more in detail about what languages do we offer services into?
These, of course, include Urdu and Gujarati, Hazaragi, Arabic, Bengali, Dari, and Hindi. So we thank those community members very much for the work that they have done throughout 2021, continuing to ensure that their fellow community members are able to stay up to date. In April 2021, we put on the AMAFHH Federation annual iftar. You might remember that in 2020, this had to be cancelled or replaced with an online event. And so we were very glad to be able to do this. Now, this event then formed the basis for being able to take what we had learned from putting on that major indoor event, where we had to implement precautions such as socially distanced seating, limited numbers, temperature screenings at the door, and having a COVID-safe champion appointed to monitor the situation and make sure that people were following the various precautions. The skills that we learned from this were then transferable to other organisations in our community. So other organisations then used that as a model for continuing to run their events safely and in accordance with the restrictions and in accordance with the advice that was currently in place from the health department in terms of how to run gatherings and events. And in order to facilitate this, we then provided training to members of other organisations, and we also supplied them with equipment such as information posters and hand sanitisers and other things that they could use to ensure that their events were COVID safe. The theme of the 2021 AMAFHH Federation Annual Iftar was individual responsibility, strength in solidarity. So this was a theme that was very much inspired by the times that we were operating in. So the situation where we had gone through 2020, we had been getting accustomed to life in the pandemic, and our community members were, for the first time in a very long time, able to actually gather and meet together to commemorate a significant occasion, the occasion of Ramadan. As part of this, we, as usual, we were supported very, very well by a number of important guests and dignitaries. The Honourable Natalie Hutchins, who was representing the Minister for Multicultural Affairs, Ross Spence. Kushalia Vagala, member for Western Metropolitan Region, which is where many of our community members hail from. We were joined, of course, once again by Chin Tan, the Race Discrimination Commissioner, who has been a regular supporter of our organisation and a great friend and stakeholder to us. The chairperson of the Victorian Multicultural Commission, Viv Nguyen, also joined us and was one of our guest speakers. The Emergency Services Commissioner, Andrew Crisp, for the first time, after regularly attending our events for many years, also honoured us with a speech, which we were very grateful.
We talk about putting the community at the centre of everything that we do. But for once, that's actually where we got members of the community in, and we actually listened to them because they were going to drive an outcome, a successful outcome for those communities. Not the fire services, not the Emergency Management Commissioner, the community. So the thing for me to take away from this, and I like sort of the theme, individual responsibility and strength in solidarity. So how do you pull everyone together? And I take that as a challenge back to the work that I do, to work more effectively with the foundation, with other communities, with other parts of government, not-for-profit, about how we actually make sure we're well and truly prepared for whatever will confront this state in the future. Fantastic night. Great to be back with you all. Ramadan Mubarak.
I always, in acknowledging the traditional owners, call to mind the welcome to country. Country is extended to everyone present. Who are we to ourselves say to another, Johnny come lately, you're not welcome? Because that welcome which is extended to us by the traditional owners is an inclusive welcome. So I have to say I take particular issue with people who particularly aren't traditional owners, who take it upon themselves to say, no, you're not like us, you're not welcome. How dare you? The other point I'd make about the welcome to country is we're all asked to make a promise in being welcomed. And that promise that's asked of us, all of us who have been welcomed to country, is that we promise to care for the land and waters and peoples that we find here. Myself as a police officer, and in fact it's a promise that each and every police officer makes when they make that promise, when they become a police officer, to look after people, look after community, we make a promise to care for the land, the waters and the people we find here. And I just want to acknowledge, as one of the many police officers in this part of the world, we can't have done what we've been able to over the past 18 months without you, our community. And if there's one thing I've learned the most about over the last 18 months, has been the importance of us being connected with and for community. Finding within communities that capability which helps communities be stronger, which looks after people, which makes people safe. And your foundation, the AMAFHH Foundation, like many others across the Northwest, little known outside of the communities you serve, but your impact and your service is huge. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you.
Chairperson of the Interfaith Centre of Melbourne, the Reverend Helen Summers, spoke to us about the important work the Multi-Faith Advisory Group, or MAG. We are a member of this group, and it has played an important role throughout the pandemic in ensuring representation of Victoria's many and diverse faiths.
This year's Women's International Day theme was Choose to Challenge, and our volunteers did a wonderful job in distributing cards, flowers and bouquets. David will explain you more in detail about how wonderful work they did.
Delegations of AMAFHH Federation volunteers actually were able to, because we weren't in lockdown at the time, were able to approach in person many of our community members particularly key stakeholders, including leaders of other organisations and leaders in Victoria, such as our political leaders and leaders of our emergency services, in order to thank them for their engagement with us as an organisation over the years and to spread the key messages of International Women's Day, which were about our theme, Choose to Challenge, which is about empowerment, which is such an important thing. So the event highlighted many of the opportunities and challenges that are faced in terms of progressing women's rights here in Victoria, and particularly for our community. In particular, we had delegations of volunteers visit the Honourable Natalie Hutchins MP. We had them visit the office of Jamad Hasi of the Victorian Multicultural Commission, and he was representing the Commission for that engagement activity. They also visited the office of the Honourable Natalie Suleiman MP. She was unable to attend, and so her assistant was able to receive their greetings and flowers on her behalf. They also, very importantly, paid visits to some of our leaders in the emergency services, including Police Commander Lisa Hardiman.
One of the constructive and meaningful meeting we attend with Honourable Ross Pence, Minister of Multicultural Affairs, and we have got a very constructive discussion with her, and David will explain you in detail.
Absolutely. So a number of us, including Batul and I and a group of our youth volunteer leaders, attended a meeting with Ross Spence at Treasury Place. She was a person who we were able to engage with well and develop a good rapport, and we talked about some very important issues that affect us as a culturally diverse community, including racism and rise of certain racist groups in our society. And we also talked to her a little bit about our faith and our organisation and its aims and goals.
This year, Eid al-Adha was unique due to the global pandemic, again, like last year, and our youth created a video message. And at the same time, there was another broadcasting live program was arranged by David Webb, and he will explain you the detail, what was included in that live program.
Okay, certainly. So unlike a lot of broadcasts, we actually made it interactive, that a lot of the children and young people were able to actively participate in, and it was their idea in the first place, which was wonderful. So we included a live quiz as part of the broadcast, and people who were members of the audience were able to answer the questions. We also had a number of speeches and other things to commemorate, as we normally do, and the session culminated in a cake cutting ceremony. Now, of course, we weren't able to gather at this time. We were doing it by broadcast. So what we did was we had the cakes distributed by volunteers to a number of families in the community, and each of them joined the live broadcast, and we were each able to cut the cake at their home together as a community, basically. So that was something that symbolised our connectedness. Eid al-Ghadir is a very important commemoration for Shia Muslims in general, and particularly for our community, because it is a commemoration of the time when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ made his final sermon before his death and announced the wilayat of Imam Ali alayhi salam to the Muslim Ummah. So in order to commemorate Eid al-Ghadir, a group of children and young people from our community created a recitation video in which they recited an inspiring nasheed to commemorate this event.
Muharram broadcasts were held every evening for the first 12 days of the Muharram, and it was broadcast in a very beautiful manner. David will explain you how it went through.
Certainly, Batul. It was a very very memorable event, and a very sad and beautiful one. So we were in lockdown at the time. We couldn't gather as a community. So what we did was we set out to run a broadcast every evening for the first 10 nights of Muharram. We had so many children and young people who they and their families came forward and said that they wanted to participate by doing recitations, by doing prayers and dua, and by doing small speeches as well to inform the community and just remind people of the very important messages of these events that took place in Karbala during these days on the first 10 days of Muharram. We had so many of these young people come forward that we couldn't actually accommodate everyone in the first 10 days. So a decision was made that we would extend for an additional 2 days. That's why we did a broadcast for a total of 12 days. So 40 days later, on the 20th of Safar, we continued our broadcasts once again, and we did a broadcast over a course of 5 nights to commemorate Arba'een of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So Arba'een is 40 days after his death. Traditionally, this would be marked by a mass gathering, which would be a march through the streets of the city. And in previous years, we have participated in this definitely as a community, and it's been a very spectacular and memorable thing. However, this year, we were in lockdown. We couldn't do this. It wouldn't have been safe, and it certainly wouldn't have been legal given the lockdown rules. And so what we did instead was we did a socially distanced march. We had each family in our community stand outside their house and recite the various latmiyat and chants and things that they would normally do on the march. So throughout the period we were doing our broadcasts for Arba'een and Muharram, we also distributed food and grocery items to community members. This was to help people, not because they were specifically short of food, but because we wanted to help them feel connected as a community and help them overcome social isolation. And we had many people who were not confident with the situation and being able to shop as they normally would, particularly in culture-specific places and ways. A key one of these videos was an interview by Dr. Mehreen, who interviewed Dr. Saeed Imran and asked him questions, importantly, about the vaccines to help overcome vaccine hesitancy in our community. Another video with a similar purpose was called I Was Vaccinated, and this showcased a lot of youth from our community telling their stories about vaccination. It had a very strong following in the community. A lot of people showed it to their families and parents, and we hope that it created a lot of conversations about vaccination. A video was also made based on the youth media group's play that was performed at the iftar during Ramadan. And this video featured a play in which the youth acted out a scenario in which vaccine hesitancy was being experienced by a family member, and they modelled ways of speaking constructively and supportively in order to help that family member overcome their hesitancy without necessarily putting pressure on them or creating animosity. So all of the broadcasts we did during Muharram, during Arba'een, and during the other occasions throughout the year, in each of those broadcasts, we incorporated key messages regarding the COVID-19 situation, the vaccination rollout, the importance of getting vaccinated, in order to ensure that as we were engaging with our members of the community and connecting with them, we were also making sure that people had that information, were up to date with it, and we wanted to help overcome vaccine hesitancy and ensure that there were good rates of vaccination and good rates of compliance with the key advice and safety messages that we've all had to be following as part of our response to the COVID-19 pandemic. AMAFHH Federation wishes to say thank you to all of our many loyal supporters throughout the year and throughout previous years. And we wish you all a happy, safe and prosperous holiday season and New Year.
Would like to thanks to all our volunteers and key stakeholders for supporting us throughout the year.